Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the chairman for allowing me to participate. I'm not a member of this subcommittee, but it's been a fascinating and I think a very important discussion. I'd like to thank each of the witnesses for being here, particularly Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you for your courage in sharing your story. That's, I think, really helpful for us to hear your story. I can tell you that I've heard from people all across my district who have been in similar circumstances with Alzheimer's and have seen the devastating impact, but also other diseases. We've been touched in my family by cancer and heart failure, I think someone mentioned, and so all of us, I think, have been impacted. And so I'm not an expert in this area. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a background in healthcare, but knowing the value of our system here, where we are known across the world as developing some of the best treatments, and then seeing some of the potentials that we have. I'm from Pennsylvania, and particularly the southeast part of Pennsylvania. We have a really great biotech industry and a pharma industry, and we've talked to a lot of companies that are developing things that could be absolutely life-changing and transformational going forward. I think someone else mentioned that, to people, but also could save a lot of money. And so I've supported, after hearing some of these stories, government funding to help drive some of this. So for NIH, I've always supported it in research. But I think the really important thing, and I was a business owner, so I understand a regulatory system that works well to encourage innovation, and I understand the risk and reward. You have to get that right. And so I get very concerned when we do things that drive down that innovation. It's one of the concerns I had with the IRA. Our CBO said that there would be, they estimated 13 less new drugs developed. I think I have that number right, but other outside, 13 fewer cures is what they said, and other outside experts indicated that number could be as high as 135 different cures. Mr. Lakdawala, do you agree with those estimates? And then I have a few other questions that I think are going to be follow-ups to some of the things that are discussed, but what do you think of those estimates? And tell me about the impact that will have on people if they are true.
Thank you, Congressman Smucker. The best evidence in the peer-reviewed economics literature suggests that every $2.5 billion reduction in pharmaceutical revenues leads to one less drug approval. In principle, there are estimated to be hundreds of billions of dollars of lost revenue due to the Inflation Reduction Act, according to the CBO. So one might do the multiplication and see that it's way more than what the CBO forecasts. Now, in fairness, the effect might not be linear, so maybe it's not fair to just multiply in that way. And it's also just difficult to predict exactly what will happen because we are now embarking on a brand new experiment that no country has ever performed. The U.S. is the biggest global engine of innovation, so what we do here has bigger impacts.
So it will have an impact. I'm concerned. I'm running out of time. I do want to get to, there's been other questioners have brought up this difference between traditional accelerated FDA approval. And I just want to understand that in her testimony before the Energy and Commerce Committee back in April 26, CMS Administrator Brooks LaSure said that CMS views FDA accelerated approval in a different category that's different than full approval. What does that mean? And in your view, what effect will that have on innovation?
Well, I think it's a depressing effect on innovation. I think it's important to think about the rationale for breakthrough approvals in the first place, that it exists because there are situations of very high unmet need where the benefit-risk calculus is different. When patients have very few alternatives, then it may make more sense to use a technology with more uncertainty.
It's why I supported Right to Try so much.
Exactly.
But should we be thinking in Congress of taking steps to clarify that reasonable and necessary standard? Is that something we should be thinking about?
Well, I think that standard is very ambiguous, and I think the more that can be done to clarify it for innovators, the better it is for incentives to innovate.
All right. I'm out of time again. Thank you so much for being here.